Welcome to the Carolina Fire Watch, where we are your source for the North Carolina Fire Service news, training, leadership, and real-world lessons learned. From the mountains to the coast, we're powered by the pride, honor, and tradition of the Old North State. Now, let's get into today's show. What's up, everybody? It's Brian, and welcome to the Carolina Fire Watch. With me today, I've got Barry Overman, the Executive Director for the North Carolina State Firefighters Association. What's going on, Barry?
Hey, Brian. Hey, everybody. Good to be here.
Well, guys, we are so excited to have you here. This is Season 1, Episode 1, and this is a really cool partnership that we have developed along with the State Firefighters Association. If you saw any of our pre-launch stuff, this was as a result of some conversations that folks had with me at the South Atlantic Fire Rescue Expo after the main podcast that I'm on, the Cool Fireman podcast. Myself and the crew were there. We were teaching a class, and some folks hit me up after Daryl Rayner's episode of the West Pharmaceutical plant explosion happened, and folks were begging for a North Carolina Fire Service podcast. And so we talked to the board, and we wanted to talk about sharing lessons learned, all things training, all things fire service, legislative trends, things that were happening. And so we talked to the folks on the board, and they said, let's get to it. So that's why we're here. We're hoping that you'll stay engaged, that you'll like, you'll share, you'll subscribe, and that you'll engage, of course, across the state fire service as a whole. So we're super excited about it. Barry, what do you guys hope to get out of this podcast as well?
Man, Brian, this is timely that we pulled this together when we did. One of the board's desires during our recent retreat and in previous retreats as well was how can we reach our firefighters? I mean, we try email, social media, any way you can imagine, but there's different ways to meet different people, and so we figured, let's try something different. And man, when you came along with this idea of starting a podcast, it couldn't have been more timely. So the perfect opportunity to get out there and reach a different audience, and maybe even some of the same audience, but just a different way to get the message out of what the association does for the more than 56,000 firefighter membership that we have across the state.
Yeah, and I loved it. I talked to a couple of the board members, and I think the idea is to meet them where they are, right? So it's in their car. It's as they drive to work, or whether that's on shift, or for our volunteers, whether it's to their regular 9 to 5. It's to meet them where they are with the key messages and the things that are happening across the fire service, and to leave it better than they found it. And that's our goal. So whether we're talking about tonight's topic, which is the state roster and why it's so critical and why it's so important, and what's changed. There's so many in the fire service who have been there for generations, but it's always evolving, it's always changing, and so we need that refresh of that information. Or whether it's to talk about lessons learned. And I think that's why on the Safer floor, folks that came up to me were yearning to know about the stories from folks like Daryl Rayner, who was there for 7 days on that scene in rural Lenoir County, and said, if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. And so they want to be prepared. They want to be ready. And so I commend the board for wanting to do this, because I think that North Carolina leads the way across the nation with ideas like this. You and I were in FDIC, and we caught each other at a concession stand, and we were taken back really by the magnitude of FDIC. But what we found was FDIC was just a bigger footprint of Safer. And the idea and the concept was the same. Send these people back home, empower them, and get them ready for the next call. And that's what it's about.
That's right.
Yeah, so we love it. So we're going to kind of go through today. We're going to give you some of the segments that we are going to do every single month. This is a monthly show, and so we're going to give you some of those segments that we're going to do. We're going to give you some teasers of different things, and also give you some call to actions. And we want to get you guys engaged in addition to this month's topics. And so one of the first things that we're going to do is this month in North Carolina fire service history. And so we've partnered with Mike Lagares of Lagares Fire blog. If you guys have been on social media any length of time in the fire service and you follow him on Facebook, you know that when it comes to fire service history or late breaking news, he's got it. He's got a beat for it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go back and look at a time in history of when something happened and something changed. And so this month, we're going to give a shout out to Newland Fire Department in Avery County. Barry, you ever been to Avery County?
I have not. In fact, when you sent it to me, I saw Newland. And I said, is that Newland or Newland? Because we have a Newland in Pasquotank County where I'm from. And I said, oh my gosh, what? I don't even remember this fire. And then I saw Avery County. So no, I have not been to Newland in Avery County.
So my wife and I, we love going to vacation in the mountains, to live at the beach. We love to go west. And Newland is a beautiful community. It's not far from Valley Cruise, Boone, Blowing Rock area, Seven Devils, if you've ever heard of that, Banner Elk area. And so beautiful area. And so shout out to you guys. You're in season 1, episode 1. But this is one of those segments that, when your name gets dropped, it's usually for a good reason, right? Because it's from a big fire. So here's what Mike sent us. In January of 1961, they had a fire on January 4th, and that fire destroyed half of the business district in Newland. The town had a population of about 550 at that time. Its location is in the Blue Ridge Mountains, like I said, and it's just 7 miles from the Tennessee state line. The fire was discovered shortly after midnight by the Avery County Sheriff by the name of Fred Banner. How cool is that? The sheriff is actually the one who found it. So he's making his rounds. Imagine this. It's 1961. Sheriff's making his rounds and from his office in town. He later said that he thinks that it started basically near the Newland restaurant, right? It's kind of like First Baptist Church of whatever, right? So the restaurant is named after that. And it possibly from faulty wiring. So, you and I are fire marshals and fire investigators by trade. That's kind of our background. So we've got the sheriff doing the investigations. This is those early times. So this is in early in the evening. By 12:30, all the town's volunteers are on scene, and the police chief is directing the fire. His name is Walker Tucker. And so Walker Tucker, what a name, or Walter Tucker, excuse me. I don't have my glasses on. Walter Tucker. So though they had thought they had the flames contained to the block just northwest of the town's main intersection, shortly after 1 o'clock, the hardware store, which was fiercely burning, according to Mike, as one newspaper reported, exploded and sent debris across Cranberry Street and live bullets. So you can imagine the hardware store, it's probably got ammunition in it, which sent the volunteer firemen running for cover. Almost immediately afterwards, the town reservoir ran dry. And if you know anything about that water supply up there, they're doing, tanker shuttles or drafting or whatever, because again, it's the mountains. Crews quickly laid a hose 300 feet to the nearby Elk River to begin drafting water. Then the pump on the town's lone fire truck stopped working. Oh, we've all been there before, right? Oh man, that's no fun.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah. So again, shortly after 1, mutual aid started arriving from Boone, Blowing Rock, Spruce Pine, Elizabethton, Tennessee. That's a weird name of that town, right?
It is.
Not Elizabethtown. But Elizabethton, Tennessee. Yep. And the JCs. This is something I had to email Mike about because I wasn't really sure about this. But the JC's new fire truck at Crossnor. So Crossnor. Yeah, the JCs bought a truck for them, according to what Mike has been able to research. So if anybody in Newland can chime in on this and see if we got this right or wrong, I'm sure Mike would love to hear this. Plus, you had Marion, North Carolina, and Morganton, and each were over 30 miles away. Could you imagine that? The way that our automatic aid and mutual aid stuff is set up in today's time, especially post 9/11, to have to be 30-plus miles away and in the volunteer settings in 1961. They probably had like a phone tree. So, man, it's taking forever. And these guys are out there getting it handed to them. The fire raged for more than 4 hours, but crews kept it contained to just 2 city blocks. That's impressive. To have all those cards stacked against them, That's pretty good. So 10 of the town's 20 businesses were lost, along with the post office and 3 apartments. Wow, it's a wonder nobody didn't die. 8 departments, right? To have that many cars stacked against you in that kind of fire. Yeah. 8 departments battled the blaze, and with 3,000 feet of holes ultimately stretched from the river to the fire. So they started with 300, and they ended up with 3,000. They also saved an insurance company in the bank building in the second block that burned. So as it happened, the fire occurred almost 20 years to the date after a blaze, and that one gutted the south side of town. So that was almost 20 years after another one. So to kind of give some present day context, wow. I went and researched this. The present day Newland, they're still protected by volunteers. The town has grown by about 200 people, and they still have around 30 plus volunteers. So shout out Newland Fire Department in Avery County for being highlighted in this month's in fire service, as well as to Mike for sending this over to him.
Absolutely.
Give us a shout out on.
I'm picturing that 3,000 feet, Brian.
Woo.
That's what's the quick math there? 10 football fields. That
yes.
is a long ways to lay fire hose. That really jumped out at me. That's crazy.
That's a lot, and you wonder if there was any, relay pumping going on, anything like that. It says they had about 300. But if you're drafting, so you have one down at the river to draft, and then you're pumping to it, you probably didn't have to relay. But still, with 3,000, how many pumpers did they have down there pumping to then have to have that much hose on the ground? So
overcome friction loss back in the day, they probably weren't even figuring for that. Sure didn't have large diameter hose. That's crazy.
Yeah, and even to think about that, I mean, we weren't talking large pumps. So you're talking 750 pumps probably back then, probably even some homemade pumpers, 350. Yeah. Hey, if you're on Newland Fire Department, comment on this podcast and let us know what was your trucks that you had on scene that day. Were they 350 GPM homemade pumps? What was the truck makeup like that? I'd love to know, and I'm sure our listeners would too. Because, again, that's kind of the point of this podcast, is to talk about some of those lessons learned. So we'd love to have that. So, again, thanks for Mike for sending that over to us. So, again, if you have something that you want to share with us, we'd love for you to get it to Mike, and so that way we can get it over to you. Another thing that we'd love to do, another little segment that we're going to do as part of the introduction to the topic, is the Carolina Fire Spotlight. So if your department has done something amazing, or a member of your department has done something amazing, maybe you've got that member that served 50 plus years and it's their anniversary, we would love to shout them out. Maybe your department's got a 65 or a 70-year anniversary. It's at that milestone. We would love to shout them out. So send us a short description, email it to thecarolinafirewatch@gmail.com, and we'll get that shouted out. Try to get it to us at least 30 days in advance, so that way when we record, we'll have enough time to give that shout out. Or if you've got that long-standing chief that's given a retirement and they've done monumental things, we'd love to give them a shout out. So we'd love to share it, and I'm sure the folks at NCSFA would love to have that for historical records as well.
Absolutely.
I was going to say, Barry, you got anything to add to that?
No, we have those come in from time to time, and so we'll definitely pass it on to you, Brian, too, so you can spotlight them, so that my feeble mind, if I forget, to make sure both of us know about it. 50 years, we should give them a truck for being in that long. That's pretty awesome to be in the fire service that long. Very impressive.
Yeah. No doubt. So again, we said we would highlight some important dates at the beginning. Hopefully you grabbed your pencil. If not, we'll try to come back to it. If not, follow us on social media, The Carolina Fire Watch. We're on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. We will share these details of these meeting reminders throughout the month. And so if you don't see it, you'll be able to go back and follow it. We'll also be tagging these different groups as well when we share this. So I'm going to go through these real quick. They're in different date orders, but January 1st, the NCSFA scholarship and grant period opens. So you're going to want to make sure that you're ready for that. Do you want to real quickly talk about some of those, just the high points of that, Barry?
And that application process, we have a lot of people that wait until March, close to the deadline to start on that. It is a significant grant and scholarship. The amount of money we give, over $300,000 across the state. And so obviously the application is not a 2-pager like a short application would be. So it's going to take you a few days, a little bit of time to put it together. So don't wait to the last minute. That's why we leave it open for 3 months. Jump on it and get your information, gather all your supporting documents, and get it in. It is well worth your time, I promise. It is competitive, but you put in the time, you'll stand a really good chance of getting a scholarship that's not just a beginning scholarship. This follows you throughout your time, depending on which one you put in for. So it's a great opportunity to put in for some good funding. And if you're a firefighter or a high school, or if you're doing your master's degree, we cover it from all angles. And if you just want a grant to come to SAFER or go to a number of trainings that are listed on our website, there's 12 or 14 different trainings that we offer a grant for. You go, pay your way, and then you call us when you're done, send us the documentation of where you spent money to go for training, and we'll send you a check for $500. So easy. And they don't take advantage of the grants as much as the scholarships, but that's free money that the board has set aside for firefighters to get good training opportunities. So jump on that, pay attention. It'll be coming out, like I say, gosh, this is the end of 25 this week. So it'll be hitting the website this weekend. So
as the saying goes, hashtag no excuses, right? There's no excuse
right.
for us not to get that going.
Yep.
So January 15th, we probably won't cover this in detail because this is going to be tonight's podcast topic. But January 15th, the NCSFA certified roster closes. January 15th, the Relief Fund trustee report closes. We'll kind of talk about that probably on another episode at some point, so we won't cover that too much. Western Region meeting, January 21st at Buncombe County Training Center. If you're not engaged in your regional meetings, you should be. Remember, this is how information from the state funnels down, but it's also the platform for you to share your needs. So these regional associations, remember, your regional directors are there at these meetings. They're engaged. A lot of times NCSFA staff, I don't know of a meeting that I've been to at a regional meeting when NCSFA staff wasn't there sharing updates, being present. And so you need to be there. And I get it. We are wide left to right and tall north to south. So it may not always be easy, but if it's close, you should be there at least once or twice a year at one of these regional meetings. So January 21st, Buncombe County Training Center. The Piedmont Association will be meeting January 28th at the Central Piedmont Fire Department in Pleasant Garden. That's in Guilford County, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
And the Eastern Association will be January 8th at Triangle Fire Department in Bayboro, North Carolina. So again, you're going to want to share all that. And the Buncombe County obviously is in Asheville. So yeah, lots of good information. Again, we'll be sharing all those. We've got some graphics and we'll be putting those out there for you to be able to see. And of course, all those meeting dates are all on those regional association websites as well for more details and addresses. Anything to get into before we get all down into the meat of tonight?
I don't think so. Let's dive right in. We are in the middle of roster season, so no better time than to jump on it.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about this show, like we mentioned before, was to talk about things that matter most. And, the timing of this is good, obviously, because the certification of those rosters closes, but there's so many different things that hinge upon it. So as we think about the next generation, there's so many new fire chiefs that are coming on board with elections. This is a really good podcast that if you know a new fire chief, or you're young in the fire service, it's very important for you to listen to this episode. A lot of people are like, that doesn't apply to me. It really does, because there's so many things that hinge upon legislatively and your benefits that are tied to this roster. And even for retirees, that's happened in years past. So you're going to want to listen to this whole show. So when is specifically, Barry, we said that it's going to close, but when is that period that the certification roster kind of happens?
So we're just past the midpoint now. It opens up December 1st and it goes through January 15th. And that is the open period for fire chiefs to go online, to log in with their login credentials and certify their rosters. Certifying their rosters, really, the word certify can be confusing, because we're not talking about a firefighter certification, as in the Fire and Rescue Commission certifying you as a certified firefighter. The word certified in the instance of a roster means that the chief is certifying. I think I can use air quotes there. I'm not really ever sure when to use those, but that is important.
No doubt.
They certify the roster, basically saying this firefighter has been with us since last January, and they have maintained what they're supposed to do as a firefighter, which mainly is get their 36 hours of training. If they have done that and they're a member in good standing, then the chief will simply click a box beside their name that certifies them for that previous year. It's everything is attached to the roster. If you meet your 36 hours of training and the chief certifies you, that guarantees you for all the benefits that the association has available to you. And the roster is the largest piece of that. You have to be on the roster for anything else that we're going to talk about for the next year to really apply. The roster is the number one priority for sure.
Yeah, and I think as we dive into some of these key points, I mean, I think you hit on a lot of those things. You know, in episodes to come, we're going to talk about ISO, but those 36 are the minimum. You have to have at least those 36 hours of training, and those are statutorily assigned. You know, those 36 are not just numbers that that you know the board of directors of NCSFA pulled out of thin air. Those are tied to general statutes, right?
That's right. Exactly. It has an influence on everything from your rating to specific benefits like the cancer benefit. That's not the LODD cancer, but the living cancer benefit that is so new and one of the best benefits that really has come our way. That is all tied into getting your training hours and being certified. It's so vital that the fire chiefs don't take that for granted. We have a lot of times where they just don't take the time to call us, and we really want them to call us. Roster management happens one time a year. I say it happens one time a year. You can vote in a member anytime during the year and add them to your roster. You don't wait till January. In fact, if you vote somebody in, make sure you add them that night. God forbid something were to happen after they're voted in. I'll have chiefs call me and say, hey, we voted in a new member, but they're on probation. You know, we don't let them fight fire until they've been here 3 months, 6 months, whatever, and then we release them to fight fire. So I'm not putting them on my roster until their probationary period is over. I'm like, no, don't do that, because they're still in the fire department. They're still training. All their benefits, again, are tied to them being added to that roster. So the minute you vote that member in or you hire that paid person, add them to the roster right then. You can come back and fill out all the beneficiary stuff and all later, but make sure you have, or I'll say later, maybe the next day, but you want to get them on the roster immediately because they're immediately covered with the AD&D insurance, which just simply by being on the roster and being a firefighter, they meet that criteria just simply by being on the roster. So that has nothing to do with the fire service. You could be out and have an accident on your own time and be covered by that insurance. So just, if they don't remember anything else from this podcast, get them on the roster immediately because everything is tied to that.
Yeah. And like you said, that certification, putting them on the roster for those benefits is crucial. Making sure that they meet the deadline is crucial as well for the other things. That certification of the 36 hours, I want people to understand this too. The 36 hours is the minimum, and you must meet that 36. What happens if they don't, or if a chief, heaven forbid, falsifies that? What does that look like? I think it's important for us to cover that as well. Why is it so important that volunteer gets those hours?
So it ties directly into their rating. So, the Fire Department of North Carolina is rated through the Office of State Fire Marshal. We have rating inspectors that go out, they rate your department, they do the inspection, they make sure that you're delivering the goods that the insurance companies are being paid. You're covering that district at the level that they apply to how well you're doing. And so it's so important that you meet that minimum. For a fire department in North Carolina that doesn't have a substation, you got to have at least 15 people that have 36 hours of training to be a North Carolina rated department. So a lot of departments have plenty of people, and that's easy to get. But you get out in rural North Carolina, where we have a lot of departments that are small. They're in small communities, and they really struggle to get 15 people on their roster at all, much less getting all 15 of them certified. That ties directly back to that department's district and how much insurance will cost for those residents and those businesses. It's a direct cost effect on them. What they're going to have to pay for fire insurance moving forward. So getting that is huge. Now, if firefighter in North Carolina does not have to participate in the pension, but it's highly encouraged because most departments or counties will pay into the pension on their behalf many times. When I came along, we paid our own, but then the county shortly thereafter picked it up and said, you know what, if you're going to volunteer, or even our paid guys, if you're going to be a public servant to our community, then by golly, we should at least, pay the $10 a month. Of course, when I started, tell my age a little bit, it was $5 a month.
$5, yeah.
Yeah, it's show my age a little bit there. So
I was with you. I was at $5 a month. Yeah.
So you look back, that's a small price to pay. They paid that monthly for 20 years. And then when you reach age 55, you get a small pension for the rest of your life. And so if you don't get those 20 years of 36 hours per year, you don't qualify for that. So getting back to what you said, if you have a department and you have a chief that's not, he's not encouraging them to get the hours, and you get this time of year, which we have 3 days left in the year, and the chief looks over his training roster and goes, wow, I've got 12 or 13 guys that don't have their 36 hours. You got a tough situation there, because the chief has got to do a couple different things. He either has to not certify them, which puts the individual and the fire department in a very bad situation, for lack of a better word, and it can compromise if he's not careful. I've seen chiefs I had one call me this week and say, I don't know what to do. I don't have enough guys to make my 15, but I'm not going to give them hours they didn't get, because I'm not lying. And I said, well, chief, you're doing the right thing, because if you falsify those records, it is a crime. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's North Carolina law. You're basically telling the treasurer's office, let's just say, for example, all of them are participating in the pension. If you certify them to the treasurer's office, and the treasurer's office sends you what's called a turnaround document the first of the year, and they say, okay, these guys that are your firefighters, they are qualified for one more year of service because you certified them last year. You do that for 20 years, and those guys never did their 36 hours each year. They are now getting a benefit when they turn 55 for something they didn't do. They weren't eligible. They didn't qualify for it because they did not get their hours of training. And let's be honest, 12 months, 36 hours, that's only 3 hours a month. And honestly, without really just being ugly about it, if you can't get 3 hours of training a month, I don't know that you really want to be in the fire service, because to go out and serve your community in the fire service, what we have to do now, we used to respond to fires when I got in the 80s. That's all we did. Now we go to everything. And so it takes a multitude of training topics just to prepare you for the minimum things you're going to run into on a call. So 36 hours, I'm surprised it's never been raised over the years, but predominantly volunteerism in the state and across the country is about the same. Volunteers are still carrying the heavy load of providing fire protection. So to put more hours on them would probably be a burden to many people whose lives are just so busy. But 36 hours, not hard to get. And if firefighters are listening, don't put your chief in that bind of having to decide, do I certify you or not? Do you have your hours or not? Help him out. Help your community out. Get those hours, man. It qualifies your department and you for all the benefits that you have coming.
And not only that, I think it's important for people to understand that there are trainings that you can bring to the department, whether it be if you're on a career department, or let's say you do CPR and first aid at your workplace. There's certain trainings that can count for departmental training to help to get towards that certification.
Exactly.
I kind of want to move on, just because I know that we want to hit some other must cover things. And we said that we were going to cover relief fund in another episode, but there was a deadline for that board trustee report. Kind of just give us a teaser. You mentioned, and I think it's important to cover here, about the pension fund, there's that board trustee report. Can you kind of cover why that deadline is tied to that roster and kind of what covers that as well?
Yeah. So as soon as the chief qualifies or certifies his roster, it immediately takes him to his BTR report, which is simply Board of Trustees report. And what he has to do, or she, in this case, they have to qualify that those 5 individuals that are serving as trustees on the relief fund board are truly active members and they're holding the position correctly. So your positions 1 and 2 are typically firefighters or retired firefighters. They can be members that just live in the district as well. Positions 3 and 4 are trustees that are appointed by the local government, and then position 5 is the appointee from the state fire marshal. Now, granted, Chief Taylor from the state fire marshal's office is not going to send you a list of people that he's going to put on your board for the 5th position. You just simply decide who you want that 5th position to be. You send it on letterhead to the Office of State Fire Marshal. In turn, they let us know. And Midori, who's our executive assistant here at the office, she takes that information from OSFM and she changes that 5th position on your behalf. So the Relief Fund Board doesn't have the option of changing position 5, just the first 4. And then when that is established, they should be active. They should be, even if their relief fund's not being utilized to its extent, to its potential, they still need to meet once a year. Make sure those 5-member boards understand that nobody else has anything to do with that relief fund as far as receiving money, dispersing money. It is that 5-member board. The chief can be on the board. If he's not, he's ex officio to the board, and the chief doesn't make decisions about the relief fund monies. That 5-member board does. Now, granted, he can have input. He's the chief of the department. If he's one of the 5 members, then he obviously is one of the 5 voting members. But it's not the town's money. It's not the county's money. It is the fire department's money. It was established in 1907. It's been the same from then till now. It's established to help firefighters. That while some changes have occurred in 2014 to allow some other opportunities we can get in at another time, establishing that report is one of the 3 qualifications that allows you to keep getting your check every year. So that's why it's important. The other dates come during the year, but January 15th is once you certify your roster, you certify the Board of Trustees. That checks the box for one of the items that you have to do to be eligible to receive that relief fund check. So very, very important date.
Yeah, and I will tell you that is going to be a topic that we cover because, I think a lot of folks know I operate a business where I help departments strategic plan, do some other stuff, and also help departments with relief funds because they struggle with those 2014 changes, like you talked about. They've capped their amounts, and they feel like they're stuck, and there's not. Those 2014 changes allow opportunities to provide additional benefits, and that is what your NCSFA has done for you. They went back to the legislature. They opened up the opportunities to provide benefits, and we're going to cover that. So again, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're going to talk about in another episode of how you can use those monies to benefit your firefighters. And that's a great retention tool for your members. So moving along, because I think it's important that we do this. How do they edit the roster? I think it's important for us to cover that. So many people, I know when I was interim fire chief and I was, like you were talking about, we had brought some folks on and I was adding them that day. Normally our admin was out who normally did it. So I heeded the word, right? And I went in, logged in, and I went to go add them, and I didn't know how to do it. So talk those folks how they would actually add and edit in the system so that way they can do it. This shouldn't take but just a second.
Well, I would never, ever tell you just call the office. But if you are struggling with that roster, call the office. That's what we're here for. Midori is the first voice you'll hear. If you've ever called, you know her voice well. But all of our staff are cross-trained to be able to answer and questions and help the chiefs work through this, because we realize that over 1,300 fire chiefs are trying to get all that done by the January 15th deadline. And if I can remind them of one thing, don't wait to January 14th, because This software we're using is no different than any other computer software. It can freeze up, it can act crazy, and when it does, it's usually January 14th at the late or the 15th at the last hour. So don't wait, because we want to be available to walk you through it. But the secret to that roster is start on the right-hand side. It's opposite from what everything else we do when we're looking at documents, but enter dates on the right-hand side and then work to the left and then certify that person and then save it. Every time you do one member, save it. If you do a collection of a number of things, I'm not an IT guru by no means, but it does get the system confused, and sometimes it may save it, but sometimes it may not. And the last thing we want you to do is certify a roster and it's not, complete. So start on the right-hand side, enter your dates, work your way to the left, and then check it, double check it, especially if you're certifying guys or you have guys or ladies that are not certified. You want to make sure you got the boxes checked appropriately so you give someone the time that they're due, and not shortchange anyone. And then submit it. And like I say, as soon as you submit it, it's going to go right to your BTR report, qualify that, certify that, and you're good to go. And if it's not a lot of changes on your roster, it's not hard. But again, a lot of chiefs will call because it's locked up, or they put something in there, they hit save, but it didn't save it. And we understand that. And if it requires a call, please call us. That's what we're there for. Numbers on our website. We're here to help you through it. But again, you don't have to wait until January. If you already know you have your folks, if your training's done for the year, you can go and certify it today. You don't have to wait at all. And in fact, I have, again, I keep saying chiefs call me, but they do. They call. I've had one call and say, why do your staff keep calling my phone? Well, the reason we start about 10 days out with the robocalls, and then we literally spread the call volume to every staff member, and we cold call every fire chief. And if we can't get them, we call the fire marshal, we call their next door neighbor, we call whoever we can to make sure that because sometimes they go, well, I already did it. Like, well, it didn't work, so let's do it together. And we just don't want January 16th and we're looking at a list of departments that didn't do their roster. Can't have that happen.
That level of peace of mind, right, is important. I'm like you. I don't want to get a phone call from you on the 13th, right? I want to know that it's done. And so I would rather have those steps in place.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about retirees, because that's a change that folks may not have realized that they need to make on the roster. Some people may be in their department and they go, oh, I'm good. I don't need to make any changes. So I'm going to wait. I'm just going to wait to the last little bit. I've got time. There's been some statutory changes about how we designate retirees on our departments. We've got, and that's what I love about the North Carolina Fire Service. We have a long-standing, rich history. I'll brag on my volunteer department. We started in 1959. We do an annual barbecue fundraiser. And so we've got folks that come up that are no longer actively serving, but they still come up and help us out with that big annual barbecue fundraiser, because we sell 1,200 plates in 2.5 hours. That's their day that they still come back and volunteer. But, there's some people that still have retirees on their roster. So this recent change now covers, and I want to get this right, retired active, retired inactive, and non-member retired. Let's go through those real quick and tell me why getting them right matters on that roster.
Yeah, and of course, everything we're talking about, Brian, is on the website. And we've made it as simple as we can. If they open our website, look across the top menu, it'll say roster. You click that, you don't even have to click it. You hover it and over it, and it'll say roster management. If you click on that, it will open up all of the definitions for each of those drop-down menus. So if you're looking at a volunteer and you're going, you know what, I'm not sure if he's 17, but he got his 36 hours. Does that make him a junior anymore, or does he count, or whatever? All those questions are answered either under our frequently asked questions or that management information. We have all of our PowerPoints up there, so you can literally walk through it. And Midori has done a great job of putting them in an order that you can follow. You can literally do your roster and look at the PowerPoints, and she walks it right through it. So it just makes it easy for you. But basically, retired, the main reason it changed, and before I forget, we cleaned up the roster a little bit. You chiefs, if you're listening, you remember last year when you clicked on the drop down menu for firefighter, you had lifetime member, you had retired, but you had to click retired, and then it gave you an option to either leave them active or make them inactive. So you had a two-step process. So we worked with the IT folks. It's been there for a while because I didn't realize how much of an IT nightmare it was to change it. But that's where software gurus come in, and Mike does a great job for us. And so he took that project on, and took him a little bit of time, but he's cleaned up that menu now. So it's active strictly for what is available for you to assign them. So retiree, like you said, Brian, has 3 different designations now. Retired active is no different than what the person was before. If they're still a volunteer, if they're still paid. Retired active simply means I am now 55 years old and I'm drawing my pension. So when we send those names to the treasurer's office, they recognize how many people are already drawing their pension. And I don't know what they do with it from there. They do a whole lot with it, but I'm sure part of that is they look at the number that are already drawing, and they don't have to do actuaries for those folks because they're already drawing money. So they don't have to worry about them being a potential drawer of the, anytime soon, because they're already considered retired active. I'm retired active. When I turned 55, I started drawing, and my chief said, what do I make you now? I said, well, you can call me anything you want, but I'm still getting my 36 hours.
Call me once a month, right?
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, so retired active? I was like, yep, you put me as retired active. There's only 3 or 4 of us in my department. We're no different. We still get our hours, everything. So retired active is easy. It's simply for the pension. It just shows, hey, these guys are drawing their pension, and we'll be asked, okay, what if they're 55 years and they had their 20 years, but they didn't participate in the pension? Then you leave them as volunteer. They're not drawing a pension, so just leave them as volunteer or paid, as long as whatever they are or whatever they were before they turn 55. If they're not drawing a pension, don't change it. The second one is retired inactive. So we have some firefighters that they do not want to be actively involved in firefighting anymore, but they've been in the department for so long, they still want it to be part of their lives. So they no longer have to get the training. They don't answer calls, but they would be what we considered a social member. So you still pay the $25 dues for them, and that gives them 7-day a week, 24-hour-a-day coverage with the AD&D insurance, which is a great benefit for the $25 a year. I've had some firefighters that say, hey, I paid the department the $25 so they don't have to, just to keep me on there as inactive. I'm like, hey, it's not a bad deal. They come down, they help, they chop the coleslaw and fry the hush puppies. They don't have to get training. So they're just there helping the department. What a great way to keep them on board and give them a little bit of a benefit by having that AD&D insurance. So again, retired inactive. Inactive means I'm not actively fighting fire anymore. I'm still active in the department. That's why they're paying my membership dues. I don't have to worry about getting my training hours anymore. I just come to the meetings, I sit in the back row, and I heckle the fire chief. I'm that guy. And so it works out great for the department and for the memberships that have been there for a long time, and they just don't want to, they still want to be involved. And then finally, the non-member retired is the one that's really important for fire chiefs to really dig into their records to make sure they cover. So the new cancer living benefit through VFIS, a department now can look back 10 years on a firefighter that has retired and cover a recent diagnosis. The diagnosis of cancer had to have happened after July or January of 2022. But if they are put back on the roster, it's of no cost to the department. You don't have to pay their $25 fee anymore. You put them on there and you forget about it. Once they're on there, they're just on your roster. So example, you may have a firefighter that left 8 years ago, and you don't even remember because 8 years is a long time. But you look back on your rosters from previous years and you go, oh, that's right. Okay, Bill was on here and he retired 8 years ago. Well, he still has 2 years that he qualifies potentially if he meets the eligibility requirements of having that cancer coverage. So you simply take him, put him on the roster as non-member retired. Doesn't cost the department anything. He simply, by putting his name back on the roster, it makes him eligible for that very, very important cancer benefit for that 10-year look back. Again, you retire today, for 10 years from today's date, you're covered by that benefit. Such a huge benefit. Most benefits you lose when you leave. This one, you are good for 10 years. So again, if the Chiefs don't remember anything else I say, make sure you get your retirees that have been gone 10 years or less and add them back to the roster. So important they're on that roster. That is an eligibility requirement, that they must be on that roster to receive that cancer coverage.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this question. Do me a favor, tap your screen, see if we can get that the little video there fixed. But there you go. So I want to ask you this question, and I don't want to put you on the spot. This is, but maybe you know the answer to this hypothetical, maybe not. But I think it's important.
All right.
You know, we're such a military-friendly state. And you know us in the East, especially in the East, we're such a military-friendly state. So I've got, when you say retiree, is that definitively tied to that 20 years of service? That's question one. Okay.
It is.
So
and certified service.
Certified in 20 years. I know that there's some Chiefs that are running that hypothetical question. Midori, you're welcome. I answered that question for you for all those that are listening. Number two, if I transfer to another department, so I live in this community, I move to another part of the state, I transfer jobs, the obligation is tied to the 20 years of credible service, tied to the roster. So I don't have to keep them on my roster as a retiree. It ties back to the total 20 years of service, correct?
It does. And it's 20 certified years with no more than a gap of 6 months. And that is, you know, we've preached being certified on the roster for years. And now look how important it is that, you know, you can't go back and make up those 20 years. If you had a break in service or you had a couple years where you didn't certify, then that's a break in service. So that disqualifies you from that. They had to draw the line somewhere. So the 20 years of retired service or 5 years active are the basic eligibility requirements. Now, obviously, you dig down in it, there's case-by-case scenarios that we play out every day with eligibility. And if Matt was here from BFIS, he would tell you the same thing I would, and the guys from OSFM as well. Don't not put in for that benefit. If you have any thoughts that you may qualify, put it in, because the research is on us to do on your behalf. And I have never seen an insurance company work so hard to pay a benefit in my life. Those guys work so good with us to make sure that we do everything possible to make firefighters eligible for that benefit. It is such a huge benefit. In the history of the fire service, is one of the best ones I've ever seen, especially with that 10-year look back. Because most time when you retire, that's typically when you get sick. And you're of that age where okay, well, now I got cancer. Now I'm not at the fire station anymore. I'm not covered because I'm gone. Well, now you have that 10-year look back.
And I'll go back and say, folks, this is what NCSFA has done. You know, it is statutorily the fire service as a whole, the NCSFA, the fire marshals, the fire chiefs, all the different groups got together. They advocated for these cancer benefits. And statutorily, NCSFA was bound to administer this along with VFIS. So that's when Barry talks
as well.
And I was going to say, and OSFM as well.
That's right.
And so, you know, they all partner together to make sure that these benefits are there. I want to get to these last three. I know folks are probably wanting to get to the end, and so we can get these other ones done. Let's talk about deadlines for dues. So we certified our roster. We have until March 31st, right?
That's right.
To pay our dues, that $25 per person. There's an add-on, a couple of add-ons that people can do. Can you talk about those real quick?
Yes. So NVFC, National Volunteer Fire Council, one of our partnering agencies, great group, another opportunity for benefits. You can opt in to be an NVFC member by just simply clicking the button on our website when you do your roster, and it'll automatically, in other words, we pay the bill for you. You hit the button, it qualifies the amount, and we take care of sending your payment once you send it to us to MVFC. So you don't worry about sending payment for dues to your office. Oh, now I got to send payment for dues to MVFC. Nope. You click the button, you pay it all at one time, and then we separate it out and do that on your behalf. The board also this year recognized, and our deputy director, Ed, who's been on the NCFFF board for a long time, and when he wasn't on the board, he was assisting them constantly, just a great advocate for them. He brought it to the board a few months ago, a great opportunity for us to put another button on the roster that you can opt in to give a donation to the Fallen Firefighters Foundation. They do so much work for the fire service in North Carolina, and so this was an easy yes for the board. We brought it to a recent meeting. The board said absolutely. Let's put this on our roster page. So obviously you don't have to opt in. You don't have to click the button at all, and we don't keep up with who did and who did not. But if you simply click it and you say, yes, I want to give $1 per member donation to the fallen firefighters, then that will be handled in-house as well. The only kicker to that is if you typically request relief fund money to pay your membership dues, which is something you can now do since the 2014 legislation changes, you can't use relief fund money to give a donation. That's not a available use. So you can still donate, but we'll have to separate that out. You can use your relief fund money to pay your dues because a benefit comes with that. And relief fund monies have to be used to pay something that gives a direct benefit back to the firefighters. So unfortunately, you can't use it to donate. But we can help you work through that if you still want to make a donation. Again, it's going to a worthy cause. Those guys and ladies over there do a great benefit to the fire service, and one of our best partners that we could ask for in the fire service.
Cool. So no more paper cards. We'll kind of just talk about this. The days of paper membership cards are gone.
Yep.
Those can be done electronically. You set that up through the website, right?
That's right. You're on the website, click on the down menu. I think it's under roster. You scroll down, it says virtual membership card. Click on that, and it'll ask you simply a bold ribbon. Click here to get your card. As soon as you click on it, it asks for 3 or 4 informational items to make sure they identify you. You click on that as well. It brings up your virtual card. You can load it to your wallet on your phone, or you can obviously select to print it out at home. We just stopped. It was costing so much money to send those cards out every year, and that's membership money. The figure, I don't recall, but it's more than $30,000 just to send cards out. And if we knew every firefighter was putting it in their wallet and we're using them, we would continue to do it. But a lot of them were not. They didn't even realize they were getting a card for one reason or another. So we're like, you know what, if you want a card, they're still there. They're still available. You just print it out at home or at the station. And they're great to have on hand. Just Christmas shopping this year, a number of places asked me, just because I usually wear my firefighter hat or a hoodie that's got some kind of fire department on it. I went in Under Armour, not to throw, a lot of places do it, but hey, they were one of the first ones that says, "You're a first responder?" I said, "I sure am." 10% discount. Office Max, same thing, 10% discount. And I didn't ask for it. They were just kind enough to look at me and say, "Are you public safety?" I said, "I am." So, sometimes they'll require you to show that card, and it's great to have in your wallet to be able to show it. So,
and you don't have to carry your physical ID for your fire department with you. You can literally have it digital on your phone at all times.
That's right. Yep.
So let's talk about these last 2 things. Social security numbers. We live in an era of identity theft, and a lot of folks are worried about sharing their social security number tied to the roster. And I think we have shared it enough. There's so many benefits to it. So you got to have your social security number tied to the roster to receive those benefits, right? That's just,
and if you do, and if you opt out on it, eventually the treasurer's office is going to have it. If you're receiving a benefit, it's attached to you through your social security number. So we are cognizant of all the opportunities that the bad guys can do. They have access probably more than the good guys do. But we protect our servers with a third-party company. We do not take it lightly. We protect it to a very high level. And so I would dare say your information is, just as soon as I say it, something crazy would happen. But I will go out on that limb, no different than giving your information to a bank. If the bad people want it, they're going to figure out a way to find it. But I can promise you, I don't think they're looking here for it. But it is tied to your benefits. So obviously, your identification is through your Social Security number. So the Treasurer's Office has to have that for any payout of benefits. So if you go ahead and add it to it, it just alleviates a lot of issues down the road.
Yeah. Last thing I want to cover while we're talking about rosters and things, again, like we mentioned at the start of this segment, was there's so many different departments that have changed chiefs, whether it's a career department and there's a changing of the guard for retirees, it's that calendar year, or whether it's a volunteer department and there's just been a change of the guard. Why is it so important that folks contact NCSFA for that?
It is all the communication that we send out of the office that goes by email or post office goes to that fire chief. Now, we have a number of things, social media, Facebook, those types of things. They go out to the masses. If you sign up to receive it, then it gets to the firefighter level, if you will. But all of those major communication tools go strictly to either the fire chief or the relief fund treasurer or both. And so having that contact information is vital. And we have set up, in fact, I got this one sitting here with me, the fire chief's manual. When the new fire chief comes on board, Midori puts all that information together for them and sends it to them in a packet. And she duplicates it on an email. And we also share that information with the pension office, with the Office of State Fire Marshal. She sends it to the Chiefs Association, all of our regional boards, so that everybody and anybody that has anything to do with the fire service can communicate with that fire chief and try to help them. Because if it's one thing we do not want to happen, is we do not want them to miss something simply because they're a new fire chief. And so we have not kicked it off yet because we're in the middle of a hiring stage right now with trying to get some new personnel on board. And as well as the board's looking at a new ambassador program, because you said it earlier, our state is so wide, and in the East especially, it's so tall, we simply can't get everywhere to meet with every department. It's my intention to hit every county. I want to, but I'm only one person. So what we want to do is be able to reach out to those chiefs. Wherever a new chief contact comes in, we want to reach out to them either with a board member visiting them or at least somebody from one of our partner associations that are in contact with them close to a county that they reside, and at least get in there and go, hey, we're here. Whatever you need, you let us know. We got you. Don't try to do this by yourself, because God knows a lot of chiefs, especially in the volunteer ranks, if they knew all that they had to handle, they might have not ran for office. They might have thought twice about it. Like, oh my gosh, I'll have them call me and go, I got this book in the mail and it's got a whole lot of deadlines on it. I said, yeah,
what was I thinking?
The good news or the bad news?
What was I thinking?
All, they all love to serve and they're great folks, but many times they don't realize it doesn't matter if you're volunteer, combination, or paid. Your paperwork is just as important for each level. You're not separated. You don't get less paperwork because you don't get paid. So
yeah. Well, Barry, thank you. Thank you so much for covering this stuff. I think it is so critical. And hopefully, whether you're brand new in the fire service, you're the new captain, you're the new fire chief, or you're the guy in the back of the room heckling, right? Telling them that they're doing it wrong. I loved what you said there.
That's right.
You have learned something today. You've taken a little bit of a nugget. And what I would say is, if you have, do us a favor, like the show, and share it as well, because that's the way that we're going to do what we all signed up to do, and that's to leave and protect our community better than we found it. And so please do that. All right, you ready to have some fun? We're going to do one of our other segments. Y'all, this is called the Bucket Brigade. So whenever we have a guest on, we're going to ask them 5 random questions, right? We all remember the Bucket Brigade era of where we just kind of threw these buckets up and tried to put the fire out. And so we're going to do this. This is the Bucket Brigade. Barry's going to have questions 1 through 100. Okay. And some are serious, some are lighthearted. He's going to give a real quick answer and maybe a little bit of an explanation behind it. And they're to be designed to be lighthearted. And then we're going to basically cover one more segment and then we're done. So, Barry, go ahead. Your first number, 1 through 100.
Let's see. Let's go with 12.
12. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
That's a tough one, Brian. Wasn't prepared for that. A superpower. Probably fly. I think everybody wants to fly.
You want to fly. Yeah, and, when we do these kind of, for those that are listening, when we do this, everybody says, that was a tough one. I didn't pick the number, Barry. You did.
I thought about, the first one that hit my mind was, I want to read people's minds. But then after that movie that Jim Carrey did, I think it was Jim Carrey. I don't think I want people's
You don't want to do
going
that?
all through my brain. No, I just want to fly. That's it.
You want to fly.
Keep it simple.
I tell you what, you'd be able to hit more departments that way, right?
I was going to say, the reason behind that is driving is probably what takes the most time, getting from point A to point B, especially with the traffic. If I could fly there, wow, wouldn't that be nice?
That would be good. All right, what's your second one? Number 2.
Let's see. Let's go with 49.
49. All right, 49 is, do you believe in ghosts?
The Holy Ghost. That is it.
I love it. I knew you were going to say that. When I read it, I said, Barry's going to go with the Holy Ghost.
My Pentecostal root's going to come out now. Yes, I believe in the Holy Ghost, but I don't get caught up in all that other mess.
Gotcha. That and a tambourine on Sunday will work. All right, what's your third one?
That's right. What's your third one? Let's go with 56.
56.
Get everybody's age in here.
Okay, I love this one. Okay. If each of your 5 fingers could dispense a different liquid, what would they be? So now you got to hold your hand up. So if you're listening to this, you got to go back and watch because Barry's going to hold up all his hand and he's going to have to.
Lord, 10.
No, 5. You got to hold it.
Okay, good.
Each of your 5 fingers.
10. All right, 5 things.
Yep. So knock them off as you name them.
Okay. All right. The first one, obviously, sweet tea. That's a no-brainer. Yeah, got to have sweet tea. Unleaded fuel, got to have that so I can fill my car up. Me and Joel Henry is on the root beer kick.
Oh, okay.
Not good for the diet, but good for the soul.
Are you a root beer float guy? I got to pause and ask.
I am. Just so straight up root beer. Funny story. We went through about 20 different brands of root beer the last couple of years just for fun, and we narrowed it down to like our 2 most favorite. And so, it's
I got to know, what are they? What are they?
Well,
the fat kid in me wants to know.
One comes from Pennsylvania, and forgive me, I can't even think of the name of it right now. It's got a little railroad on it. That was number 2. Number 1 comes from a local grocery store. You would never guess it. And it comes in the glass bottle, of course. Okay. And I'm having a senior moment again. Is it Mr. Fruity? Mr. Fruity? Anyway, you would never expect it to be the number 1, but it is number 1.
So if you see Barry at Safer, bring him a root beer. He may need
root beer, absolutely.
All right, so the other 2. So we got sweet tea, unleaded, root beer, and what's the other 2?
Let's see. You're gonna laugh at this one, but the old country time lemonade, that takes me back to my childhood.
Okay. So
probably not good for you, but mix it up, and that takes me back to my
pink or regular or
just regular. Regular. Okay. It was a good day when Country Time came out when I was probably 7 or 8 years old. That was good stuff.
All right.
The last one, geez, I'm running out of probably Mountain Dew. I don't drink it anymore. My son would laugh right now because he's like, yeah, you do. But I'll sneak one every now and again. I grew up loving a Mountain Dew. So, yeah, number 5 would definitely be Mountain Dew.
So the guys that I've interviewed in the past would definitely throw ranch in there, some Sweet Baby Ray's.
Oh, I didn't think about
honey mustard.
Sauces.
Yeah, the sauces, man. You got to. I mean, I'm the barbecue guy, so people will have it.
Beat Sweet Baby Ray's.
Somebody will say, like, I want some, some Eastern North Carolina barbecue sauce.
Yes.
They'll throw those out there. So
and a shout out to my man Roy Spell. I mean, he had the best barbecue sauce. Made it right there in Greenville, North Carolina. It was called "Make Your Tongue Slap Your Brain" barbecue sauce. So
You want
yeah,
to
I'll
take?
throw the
You want to
six
take?
finger up for that.
I was gonna say, you
Sure.
want to take one of those back? You want to take Mountain Dew back and put that one back?
Right. That's right.
All right, give me number 4.
Number 4, let's do 19.
19. Okay, we're going back towards the top. Number 19 was you're given $10,000 to spend at one store. Where are you going?
Northern Tools, baby.
Northern Tools, really?
Got to go to Northern Tools. Yes, sir.
Wow.
That's a poor man's Walmart right there.
Okay,
That's
so what
good
kind of
stuff.
stuff? What are you throwing in the shopping cart?
Oh man, I just love to walk every aisle. In my wife's words, do we have to walk every aisle?
Yes.
And I said, although I don't play the lottery, if I ever did come across money that I just didn't need for anything else, obviously I would do some good stuff with it. But if I could just go on a shopping spree at Northern Tools, I'd hit every aisle. And yeah, it'd just be all those things that I'm too old to use now, but I always wanted, you know. Yeah, that'd be a good shopping trip. That or Sam's Club. I could probably do some damage in Sam's Club too.
No doubt. I mean,
For
think
sure.
about the root beer you could buy, the
Oh,
Sweet
my
Baby
God.
Rays. I mean, you could
Yes,
get like
sir.
pallets of that stuff, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, number 5. Number 5.
Number 5, 7.
Number 7. Lucky number 7. All right. Should chili have beans?
Yes.
Yes. I like it.
I've had it with, had it without. I'm a easy. I just stopped at Wendy's last night on the way home and got me a bowl of chili. It's chilly weather outside, and so yeah, theirs has just the. Now you got to have more meat and sauce than beans, but I think you got to have the means for it to actually be chili. Yeah.
I like it. Well,
Go with
hopefully, speaking of liking it, I hope you liked the Bucket Brigade and it wasn't too hard on you, and we had a good time there.
Yes, sir.
So very, very cool. Well, again, thank you for being on there. One of the things that we want to also do is we want to give shout outs to folks that are our listeners. So if you've enjoyed today, again, and you've commented, we want to give you what's called the Firewire shout out. So every month we're going to go back and we're going to shout out a listener comment, something that was in the last month's episode. So it'll be a listener comment. So make sure that you comment on one of those. Did Barry get his 5 liquids right? You know, do beans belong in chili? I don't know. Did you learn something about rosters? Whatever it is, drop a comment and make sure that you get engaged. So again, don't forget, as we close out this show, make sure that you like, you share, you subscribe to this, send it to a friend, and make sure that you send your nominations to thecarolinafirewatch@gmail.com. And again, by doing that, you'll also maybe even get a teaser of what the next episode will be. It's in the works. This is season 1, episode 1 in the books. Thank you, Barry, for joining us for this show. We appreciate
Thanks, Brian.
you coming
It was
on.
a great time. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. And we'll see you on the Carolina Fire Watch.